So we have a very experienced person with us today, and Rich, we're so happy to be having this conversation.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Great, great. So this discussion, people might be coming to it because we are going to talk about the Feldenkrais method through the lens of recovery, and specifically at some point in the discussion, how the Feldenkrais method can help people heal from surgery. But since this interview is open to anyone, and there will probably be lots of people hearing about the method for the first time and wanting kind of a foundation, I'm wondering if you would like to give us some introductory points about the Feldenkrais method and where it fits in a person's approach to good health.
Well, yeah, that's a very broad question. And I guess I like to speak from personal experiences. So just a little bit of a background. My daughter, my oldest daughter, I have to say my oldest daughter because I have a younger daughter too. My oldest daughter, that's how I got into the work, and she has something called spinal muscular atrophy. And she had many lessons from Russell Delman and Anat Banyel, who were the two primary people that really influenced my work. And she walked till she was like 11 years old. And then now is in a wheelchair. She's 36. And so I would watch her do things, and she was so specific in how she coordinated her intentions that how you define health is so specific to yourself. And so when I see people, I say to them, my oldest daughter, I think, is one of the healthiest people I know, even though she's in a wheelchair, because she can have an intention and turn it into a behavior or an action with the clearest, least amount of effort anywhere that I've seen. And I think that that's one really nice way to look at it. Is it's not how much weight you can lift or how fast you can run, although those are really great things. It's really having a very clear intention of what you're trying to do and doing it with the most efficiency possible. I think that's what Moshe was talking in the elusive violence. You know, especially when people come to you pre-surgery, if you can give them an experience of themselves where they're, and it's not going to, you know, a lot of surgeries are necessary, right? I mean, but if you can give them experience of themselves moving with a quality that's enjoyable, that is non-intrusive, then after the surgery, you can refer them back to themselves so they can learn by themselves, listening to themselves, because you're only with them for an hour, however frequently you see them. So they can work with themselves. So they're their own best teacher. And they learn that, oh, if I get up this way and I sit down that way, in personal experience, because I swim, competitively, that I've had moments when I've been injured. And when I'm in the pool, I slow it down to feel, okay, if I do this or if I do that, and then I move this in this coordinated way, that this works, it doesn't hurt anymore, or this feels better. So it's an improvement. So it's not that it goes away. It's just, well, this feels, it's like, oh, now it's fun again, right? Or it doesn't hurt as much, or, however you want to, do it. But if you don't have that reference point, you have to bring people to a place so they can experience it first. If they're coming to you post-surgery, then you have to find a place where, as Russell would say, there's a child in the room who's always yelling, and that's the the fear or the pain, but you have to find a place where there isn't that child yelling. Can you feel your shoulder move? Does that hurt? No. Okay, well, does rolling your head with your shoulder? No, doesn't hurt in my knee. Okay, well, then your shoulder and your chest, does that hurt? No, that's okay. Okay, so then you start enlarging the places that they can move and enjoy their own experience, and then eventually you attend to the idea of helping them feel without as much fear. And then people say without fear. I'm not so clear that happens. Without as much fear, and a reduction of that fear base. And then they can go experience how the knee can move much clearer, because they're not so worried that it's going to hurt. So, it's like, oh, it's going to hurt. Well, what do? Well, we tense up, well, then you don't really feel it. You're just tensing up.
Mm-hmm. So I can really appreciate the distinction you're making while still communicating there's hope, whichever way you approach it, whether if you come to work with a practitioner prior to your surgery, you're going in perhaps with more self-knowledge. To me, that leads to confidence, but people are individuals in that way. And then after the surgery, your work can pick up, your work with the practitioner can pick up kind of a little bit where it left off. But there's still a lot of potential if a person is struggling post-surgery and they come to a practitioner. And I think sometimes we're not aware of the fear we have of moving those parts again that have been moved around and kind of invaded during the surgery.
Well, you have medical professionals for all good intentions will come over and says, your shoulder hurt? And they'll go, how does that feel? And you go, ow. And it's like, well, wait a second. Let me figure out how I can, do that, in a way that doesn't hurt, right? So a lot of people come to us because they've kind of run the gamut. They go on to their doctor, which is great. And then they go on to a physical therapist, which are great. And then they've gone to an osteopath, or they've gone to another physician, or wherever they've gone. And then somebody says, oh, by the way, have you ever tried this stuff? Felden what? Kind of idea. And they say, well, what do you do? Well, what is it that we do? Well, we help you feel how you can coordinate things differently so it becomes more pleasurable to do. Well, what does that mean to somebody? Mm-hmm. Well, your knee hurts. Well, how do you use your knee? And what frame of reference do you use your knee in relation to your foot and to your hip and to your head? And how does that all work together to either create pain or to create more comfort? Mm-hmm. And well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if you can do it like this and do it like that and it improves, then you're going in the right direction. If you're just trying to crank on yourself, and probably not going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listening to you talk, I had a flashback, a memory of my post-knee replacement days. I was riding on a stationary bicycle, and I heard my new knee was clicking. And maybe if you've worked with people who've had knee replacements, or you've heard about the clicking that can happen. Yeah. And so I'm riding, and because I've done the Feldenkrais work, I thought, okay, I know that knee doesn't always click, but it's clicking right now as I do this activity. Yeah. And I thought, let me check in and see what I'm doing. And I was in a pattern of holding in my belly, which made me stiffen and tense in my back. And when I let go, that changed my organization, and the clicking stopped. And
let go of what, though? That's a great comment, right, Mary? Let go of what? What does it mean to let go? And people go, well, I let go. What did you let go? How did you let go?
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes my language can be a little bit vague. In that case, I knew to I knew to combine my breathing with my abdominal movement.
Yeah.
And that is what in that case, that is what I meant about letting go of some holding that I was doing. So I just share that example because I knew that you would be able to relate to it, and probably some listeners out there too.
Yeah, and people will say, well, they have me doing these exercises 3 times a day, 6 reps at a time. And I go, great. How's it working?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it helpful? Well, if it's helpful, go ahead and do it, But I'll take those, the things, what they call exercises, and I'll say, well, let's look at it. Let's look how you do those things. Can we tweak them a little bit and bring awareness to them, so you feel like, well, how do you do the leg lifts that they want you to do, right? Mm-hmm. And can you do those differently? Do they say you have to do them like this? Are they rigid? Or can you lean to one side, take weight on one side, so then the other side becomes lighter and softer, and then all of a sudden your leg gets lighter, and it's like, oh, I can do this a lot easier. I can do it 10 times, 12 times, 20 times. How did that happen? Your leg didn't get stronger. Well, the coordination of all that allows you then to become much stronger in 30 seconds than you were before. And that's the magic of Feldenkrais, which is kind of fun for me to watch.
So when you are speaking about asking oneself questions about the quality of movement, you're referring to coordination, a sense of efficiency.
Yeah, it's more than that.
Okay.
It's more than that. When a practitioner works with somebody, and because of COVID now, we're recording during COVID. There's, we're not touching. I'm not touching now with people. I'm working virtual, but there is a quality of easiness of and people would say there's an effortlessness to it. Mm-hmm. And I think I want to be clear about this, because in my interpretation of what Dr. Feldenkrais said about that is that it feels effortless, but it isn't effortless. There is an easiness to it that allows for this, oh, I can do this forever kind of feeling. And that feels pleasurable to do, right? And when I work with, well, it doesn't really make a difference but I'll use elite athletes, because to get in with them and to talk with them, this is one of the things that I say. Whenever you've done something really well, I mean, like I'm working with a football player now. Whenever you've done that movement or that function really well, has it ever felt like work? All right. And they'll think, and they'll say, no, I was in the zone. It was perfect. It just happened, right? Well, that's because the effort was being diffused throughout all of yourself, so that when you use yourself, nothing got in the way, right? Well, we kind of refer back to where we started. We have this unstoppable force against this immovable object. It's not going to feel effortless. It's going to feel like effort. And then we have this socialization that tells people that equates effort with value. But on the opposite side, when we do it really well, it doesn't feel like effort. So you have this kind of education process when I work with people, say, okay, feel that it doesn't have to feel like effort. Although you're using effort, you're doing it in a way that allows people to feel pleasure when they do something, right? It feels good. So do it. Don't do it so it feels bad. Please.
So learning to move so that moving feels better. feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of Moshe's, I say Moshe, Dr. Feldenkrais, one of Dr. Feldenkrais's thing is this is much too important to be serious about. So I really use humor and laughter when I'm with people. Can you laugh? Can you tell me a joke while you're doing this? Can you, you know, sometimes it gets me in trouble, but most of the time, I really kind of try to help people understand that when they take away the pretense of effort, that they're not trying. When they're not trying, they actually do it much better.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the joking and how a little bit of insight into how you interact with your students.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, as you reflect on your work with your students over the years, have there been any surprises or questions, observations that stand out to you that you would like to share?
Yeah. There's several. One of the kind of fun thing for me is I'll get a call for somebody and they'll go, I'm so-and-so. I go, yeah. And I'd like to come in for a lesson. Okay. How can I be of help? Well, I saw you 20 years ago and you gave me one lesson that changed everything. And I don't remember, and I laugh because I don't remember the lesson. It was a long time ago. And there are a myriad of lessons that have come by. And of course, they remember it, but I don't remember it. So I kind of think that that's kind of fun. Because you do, we enter people's lives and we change things, hopefully for the better. And then they are, and then they move on and they call you back and then they say to you, oh, by the way, did you know, I was privileged to work with a lot of Major League Baseball players, still some. And one of them was a finalist for something called the Cy Young, which is the best pitcher in the league. And it was a long time ago. And about a couple of years ago, he called me up and he said, are you still doing that stuff that we did together? And I said, yeah. He says, can I bring my son in? I started laughing. I said, sure, what's going on with him? And he started laughing. He says, well, he's kind of doing the same thing I did. I said, well, okay, let's bring him in. So that was kind of fun. I said, oh, I've been doing this stuff a long time because not only did I see him, now I'm seeing his son and he's playing baseball too. So that was kind of fun too. So I don't know if that's what you were kind of speaking to, but there's a whole myriad of experiences that happen. So much learning for me that happens. Working with such a huge eclectic group, because I got into this work because of my daughter when she was a child. I love working with children and seeing, appreciating where, first of all, how much trust parents need to allow you to work with their child. I mean, before anybody worked with my daughter, they were going to give me a lesson and they were going to touch me, and I wanted to make sure that it was okay. And so I totally get the protectiveness of a parent, and then to see the benefits, to see the improvement, and the joy and the laughter. And when a child does something for the first time, and it kind of brings a tear to your eye because it's like, oh, they're on their way. And you don't know where that's going to last. You don't know when, and not last. You don't know where that's going to lead, but you know that you've moved them along in the right direction. So that's kind of a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fun and beautiful and feels really good just to.
It feels really good in my heart.
Talk about it. Absolutely. And that is a component of this work too, Rich, when you say a lot of times it's unspoken because it happens very naturally and organic, but there are feelings involved in this work, because when a person is looking for help with recovery or whatever kind of issue, that's very personal, and it's very important.
Yeah, and to acknowledge and to respect and to well, I think respect is the best word, but that they're letting you into their world, and with the hope that you're going to help them improve. And I think,
and you've touched on this, so this question might be a bit repetitive for you, but I was wanting to ask you, in general, what inspires you about this work?
that it's, one of the things that it is, it's never ending, I like that, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like, I pull my hair out.
Maybe some of our students feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like I never, it's like somebody gives me a lesson, or I do an awareness through movement lesson. Somebody else teaches it, and I go, I've been doing this for so long, and I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. So I can feel kind of like ignorant sometimes.
Well, and I think, and I'd like to just say that I think that for the members of the public who see the language of the Feldenkrais method can be loaded. We talk about classes, we talk about that we teach lessons, that this is learning. And that's not language we are used to associating with recovery and healing. Mm. So are there any final words that you have to say for the general public, our audience members who are curious about how this method might help them?
Yeah. So I think that I think that don't get caught up in the verbiage that we use. If you want to call something an exercise that you're doing with a Feldenkrais practitioner, call it an exercise. Mm-hmm. If you want to call it a lesson, call it a lesson. If you want to call it a get together when people lie down on the floor and do these movements, call it a get together. Don't get caught up in our verbiage. Make whatever's happening your own experience. You put your words to it, and don't worry about the technical things that a practitioner might call. If you have interest in that why, then that's the practitioner's job to help you become educated. Mm-hmm. and understand why we do that. But first, just enjoy the experience, because the method is experientially based. And just a real quick story. May I? Is that okay?
Yes.
So I got to work and have a lot of the Arizona State University football team, baseball team, women's basketball team. And the way I got to that place was that my daughter played baseball. My youngest daughter played baseball with the boys and was on the boys baseball all-star team. And when she was there, she would go to baseball clinics and met a man who's coaching her, whose son was on the Arizona State baseball team, and his back hurt. So he came to see me, the young man who was on whose back hurt, and I helped him, and then he told the coach. And so it took me, I don't know how many telephone calls to say his name is Pat Murphy. Murph, I said, you got to come see me, come see me, come see me. I know he could, no. And I kept on calling him. Finally said, fine. And I said, I tell you what, Murph, if I can't help you do anything better, whatever you want, if it cannot be improved, you'll never hear from me again. Now I know it's kind of a loaded kind of a bet because I know that I can do that. Well, he thought he had me because he has a pin in his shoulder and he's a left-handed pitcher. So he couldn't bring his arm, or at least he thought he couldn't bring his arm back like this. So he finally agreed to come up to my office and have a Feldenkrais lesson. And he said, okay, kind of wise guy, you know, like, ha, I got you. I said, okay. He goes, what? I said, Murph, what can I do to help you? And he said, I want to be able to wash my hair with my left hand. Since they put the pin in my shoulder, I can't do that. I said, okay, no problem. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, as Feldenkrais practitioners, there's a myriad of ways to bring your hand behind your head and all different ways that we do things. And so within like 5 minutes, his hand was behind his head. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you do that? And I said, well, now you have to come back for more lessons. So really, when you get these people who come to you, I say to them, it's the experience. Don't believe me, but you have to believe your own experience. So don't worry about somebody calls it an awareness through movement lesson or a functional integration lesson. What was your experience? Were you able to bring your hand behind your head? You were. Great. Now you have to figure out how come that happened. And then you're on your way. And I'm still good friends with Murph. It's fun.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I think that just makes it, everything we've been talking about, very concrete and clear. Because this is about honoring and respecting and learning to listen to one's own experience, about, you know, learning to value that. That's what we do. Well, Rich, I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Me too. A lot of fun.
It's been fun. It's so nice to meet you and get to talk with you. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you and more conversations in the future.
Thank you very much, Mary. It was a lot of fun. I guess you can tell I can get enthusiastic about talking about the method. I hope it comes off okay. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and it was a real pleasure.
Thanks so much. Take care, Rich.
Bye-bye.